I reckon the internet's full of 25-year-olds giving people life advice. They know a lot of shit. Everyone knows a lot, including myself. I think I know a lot, but in reality, there's no embodiment. That's because there's not enough time equal to the information that's being uploaded. Everyone knows the benefits of ice baths, saunas, training, their heart rate. Everyone's got an Apple Watch, but it's kind of like, just go run 50Ks, jump in the sauna and see how it makes you feel. Go too long in the sauna, cook yourself, go too long in the ice bath. Before anyone's even done any self-experiment, they're so concerned about the information of how to do it right, and that makes like dependent people on information. And I think that's why ChatGPT and all these things are so dangerous, is because people outsource all of their experience because they want to find the answers before going through the embodiment of the process.
Scott McIntosh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, bro.
So why do you think we struggle with our mental health in our society so much?
Oof. Number one thing, like I was saying to you before this started, is I reckon we're kind of living in the age of information. So I think the mind deals with information and the mind likes to solve problems. And I think everyone is so obsessed with gaining more information and gaining knowledge that the knowledge starts to turn on you at some point. And people think way too much about everything, about how life's going to work out, about what they look like, about how they're going to make money. But I think there's too much information. There's too much information being uploaded into the mind because we're looking at our phones so much. And obviously, anytime you interact with the senses, you're taking in some type of information, and it's not natural information. It's synthetic information. And then we're wondering why we're living in our head. It's because we're uploading too much shit into the mind.
Are we uploading too much stuff, or are we not applying enough? So do you think it'd be more beneficial to cut our intake of information and apply way more of it?
100%, man. I reckon the internet's full of 25-year-olds giving people life advice, but they know a lot of shit. Everyone knows a lot, including myself. I think I know a lot, but in reality, there's no embodiment. And that's because there's not enough time equal to the information that's being uploaded. Like, everyone knows the benefits of ice baths, saunas, training, their heart rate. Everyone's got an Apple Watch, but it's kind of like, just go run 50Ks, jump in the sauna and see how it makes you feel. Go too long in the sauna. Cook yourself, go too long in the ice bath. But I find like before anyone's even done any self-experiment, they're so concerned about the information of how to do it right, and that makes like dependent people on information. And I think that's why ChatGPT and all these things are so dangerous, is because people outsource all of their experience because they want to find the answers before going through the embodiment of the process. So I definitely don't think it's a matter of, not embodying it. It's definitely a matter of just taking in too much and not knowing what to do with all the information. So I definitely think less is more. And I think you learn a lot more about yourself with less information, less feedback, less noise.
So you find it's almost like spiritual bypassing?
In a way, it's kind of like, I do it myself sometimes too. You'll be on the way to a restaurant, and before you even get there, you're looking at the menu on your phone. It's like, just go there and just have no idea about what you're getting into until you're in the thing. So I don't know if it's spiritual bypassing, because I don't know if spirituality comes into it, but it's definitely experience bypassing. You're bypassing your experience to know the answers before you even do the thing.
What's at the core of that drive then?
I don't know. Like, the core of the drive to what?
To want to preemptively experience something before we do.
That's a good question, man. I think it's control, issues of control. You're wanting to control the outcomes before experiencing them. It's wanting to know everything. It's impatience. It's instant. It's like, you get to bypass the learning experience to know the answers.
So where has this like large scale drive for our society to want to be in control come from?
I'm not sure, to be honest, man. I think it's a combination of things. I definitely think our phones have rewired the way that our brains operate. And because we get to know so much so quickly on a small scale, I think it just keeps rippling outward. And I think we want everything. Like, I was watching something the other day and someone was complaining about how hard it is to get a house and how hard it is to buy land. And I was like, yeah, it is hard if you want to buy a place in Bondi or Byron Bay. If, like my parents, they didn't buy a place in the nicest spot on earth. Like, there's so many things you can do without having to go to the end goal straight away. So I think the frustration from young people comes from wanting everything now and then genuinely believing that we're living in some type of housing crisis or some type of crisis, when in reality there's so much we could do if we just took the slower approach. So yeah, I'm not sure where it comes from, man, but it's definitely weird. Yeah.
Using your own experiences, take me into this tension between this desire for wanting to experience more in this lifetime and also finding appreciation and gratitude for the small moments. There's this tension that, like, okay, if I achieve all of these things, if I build a successful career or business, then I'm going to be happy and I'm going to have sustained happiness for the rest of my life. But also gratitude being found in the simple things and life not needing to be this grand experience to actually genuinely be fulfilled.
So what's your question? Like,
There's this tension that I feel between, there's not a direct correlation between the circumstances in our life, the material possessions we have, and our fulfillment. But I think it's also naive to also ignore this calling for more. But I also think it's naive to think that it's going to bring us happiness and fulfillment if we just have all these material things.
yeah, that's hard. Like, I'm a material man. Like, I love material possessions. Like, I like nice clothes. I want to live in a nice house. I like eating good food. So I don't know. I just think it's about having a healthy relationship and being realistic about, like, everyone knows that material things don't bring you happiness, but at the same time they do. But I always say to my wife that you got to realize the best thing we're going to do, no matter what we've got, no matter how much money we've got in the bank, no matter what car we drive, the best thing we do is going to be probably holding hands, walking our dogs on the beach in the morning and sitting down and having a coffee together. So I think as long as you're striving towards material possessions while simultaneously understanding that they're not going to provide as much happiness as that walk on the beach or that coffee in the sun or just having a pizza with your mates. I think if you can move towards material possessions, understanding that the happiness is in the small things, I think you're going to live a very well balanced, beautiful life, because we do live in a material world. Chasing material things can give you purpose. And what it can do is it can help create safety for your family, because you're never going to get to a place where we don't need money or we don't need currency or we don't need things. But I just think it gets tricky when you start to place an unrealistic expectation on how happy you're going to feel when you get those things. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I've always had a good balance with it. Like, yeah, I love money and I love making money, but at the same time, I love blowing it too, and on good things. And I think I've bought enough things to realize they don't make me happy, but they definitely add value to your life. Yeah.
Because I feel like it's an interesting thing to navigate internally, to almost detach from, well, because we spoke about this before and you pushed back against me, right? Like this detachment from, when we're striving, we get emotionally attached. And I feel like there's this obsession of like, you can't be attached to these material things that you're striving towards. So when someone does have that drive inside of them to create something powerful, something bigger than themselves in their lives, whether that's a business, a podcast, they want to create. And And there's such a strong attachment because it comes from the deepest part of themselves. But then it also creates these emotions of almost resentment, frustration. It's stressful. And there's a lot of people trying to escape that, get rid of that side of it as well. So how would you...
Man, it's honestly stupid to think like that. Like the resentment, the frustration, and the struggle are the very ingredients. They create the pressure that creates the person that can offer the thing. So trying to remove all of the struggle from something is going to remove the ability in the person to deliver that gift. Like, I don't know anyone who I've messed up so terribly in my life. I've done really, really dumb things. And I've suffered in silence severely for it. But I've also really, really, really wanted things. And what I understand is that often the greater the thing that you get equals the greater the suffering that you've gone through to get it. And through the process of the suffering, it often creates that unique person to offer that unique offering. So, yeah, like you were saying before, a lot of people say to me, I really want something, but I just want to detach from the feelings of frustration to get there. And I want to work, but I don't want to bring my work home with me. And like what I was saying to you before is like, I work 24/7, like not physically, but mentally I'm working. I'm emotionally attached to my business, and my business is part of me. It's a direct reflection of me. I don't ever think I'd get to a point where I can disconnect from my work and still be successful. I believe if you want to succeed in anything, it needs to become part of your being. So I think it's unrealistic to think that you can get really good at anything and not have a part of your soul attached to it. And you know what? When your soul's attached to something, it means you're invested. And when you're invested, it creates pain because you've got skin in the game. And having skin in the game is the only way to kind of get serious and get it done.
What is the price tag of being fully invested though? Is there will it take you out of being present? Like, what is the optimization here? Like, is presence and fulfillment in the journey? If that's the goal, then how do you ensure that when you're emotionally invested, you're not putting yourself into space and time away from the present moment during that process?
Yeah, well, if you're a man, and I'm going to talk on behalf of men, for example, masculinity is forward thinking. Like, you have to see something before it happens. And quite often, people will say to me, my wife will say to me all the time, oh, you're just in your head. And I am in my head because I am in a place further than my present. Now, I think when you're in that space long enough, you do develop the skills where you can go, oh, I'm in my head. I've got to come back and be present. But it's our job to be forward thinking. It's our job to be in the future. Sometimes as a man, you're not going to be present because in the present moment, you're designing the future. And it's like, it's that balance, man. Like, you're sacrificing a bit of presence now for a lot of presence later. Like, what I find is, like, if I wasn't constantly obsessing about the business that I'm in now, I wouldn't be where I am now. And everything I've wanted in my life has required some type of mental domination where I'm so connected to the thing on the mental plane while physically not being there that eventually time and space collapses and then I'm in that reality. So I don't know, man. I think as a man, if you're wanting to do anything, you're probably going to have a little bit of a lack of presence because you're designing it in your mind in the present moment now so that you can be living that in the present moment one day in the near future.
This is at the core of the tension that I'm exploring here between like letting go and surrendering and not being attached to the outcome, where we come from a place of lack and we can't attract these opportunities into our lifetime. So how do you find the nuance in that of being able to, yes, have vision, have forward thinking, but not be so attached to the outcome that you come from a place of lack and that creates all of these negative emotions where you just recreate the present moment that confirms that place of lack.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be coming from a place of lack if you love doing something. If you love doing something,
Well, then why do so many people get stuck in a place of lack, even though it might be authentic to them?
yeah, well, it's coming from so many different areas, bro. It's not just coming from a place of lack because you really want to get somewhere. It's fear. People live in fear. So how I kind of describe this thing to someone is like, someone asked me something similar to this the other day. They're like, how do I go after what I want without losing the presence in my current way of being? Now, I always believe that you need to come back to a place of love for whatever you're doing. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get stressed out. Like, I love working with people. I love talking to people and I love helping them solve their problems. Just because I love that, it doesn't mean that I don't get stressed about it. But I think you really need to accept that there is going to be some type of tension around the work that you do for the rest of your life. That keeps you growing.
So it's just, do you think at the core of that issue is the denial of life being two-sided?
I just think people just have some weird warped idea that when you're doing anything, there's not meant to be any hardship. Just because you love your partner, it doesn't mean that it's not freaking hard to be with them sometimes. Just because you love your job, it doesn't mean that it's, glorious all the time and you don't question giving it up sometimes. But when there's enough love there, you always get through. Like when there's enough love in the relationship, you overcome the hurdles. When there's enough love for what you're doing, you'll always find a way to make it work. But I think trying to get to a point where there's nothing wrong and there's no resistance, that's unrealistic. And I feel like I've gone about things for long enough to realize that no matter what I'm doing, I'm not going to enjoy it all of the time. And I'm not going to be present all of the time. So, yeah, I really just think you really got to come back to doing what you love. Because if you don't, if it's just a mental vision, but your heart's not connected to it, it's going to fizzle out and you won't be able to get through that resistance. But if you love something enough, you'll find a way to get through the resistance.
How does someone find what they truly love without the noise of the world?
Trial and error, man. I didn't know what I loved when I left school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And this is like going to sound really brutal, but I don't think everyone's going to end up doing what they love in life. Some people go to work every day and hate everything they do. And the reality is a very small percentage of people are going to end up doing what they love. But the other side of that coin is I don't think that what you do for a living has to be your purpose. And I think young men are struggling with their mental health and young women so much now because they believe that what you do to make money, everyone thinks that you really have to love what you do to make money. Whereas sometimes you do what you got to do to make money so that then you can be home with your family or you can then go and do what you really love. So if making music is what you love, but no one's ever going to pay you to do it, it doesn't mean that music's not your purpose. It's just a sad reality is that not everyone's going to be a famous musician, but that doesn't mean you should stop doing your music.
But I think that's where at the heart of this is we've seen how possible it is for people to succeed and we want to be the hero of our own story. So how do you balance I just feel like there's a part of that where we're victimizing ourselves to not being the person we can be. And what about our potential? What happens if we could reach there, if we just dug a little bit deeper and followed our heart and didn't settle?
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's a sad reality, man. Not everyone's going to hit their potential.
But I think that's why there's so much mental noise around this because people want to be the one.
I know everyone wants to be the hero in the story, but not everyone is. Like, it's so brutal, but this is where it gets kind of weird. Like, I always pray, and I always ask God I pray for what I want, but then I also ask God, I only want it if it's what you want for me. So I want things in my life, and certain things I haven't got that I've wanted, but I have to surrender to the fact that if I do have faith in a higher power, I need to understand that maybe God has other plans for my life. So sometimes I think when you've got plans for your life and they don't work out, it's a real opportunity to surrender and say to God, well, if it's not in your plan, I don't want it either, and allow a higher power to work through your life. See, I believe sometimes you can get so fixated on what you want while simultaneously not understanding that what you want actually won't bring fulfillment to your life. So some guy might want to be a famous rock star. Some guy might want to be a famous footy player. I don't know. People want weird things. But perhaps just having a family, a wife and 2 kids and working 5 days a week is God's plan for you. And perhaps in doing that, there's going to be a shitload of happiness. So it's very difficult, but sometimes you got to surrender what you want and take a step back and ask God, is this what you want for me? Because I believe if you do have that faith and you live with that faith and you stop resisting everything that's coming into your life, you can find deep levels of happiness in the mundane. And when I mean mundane, I mean in the simplicities of life. So I think often we suffer our own expectations. And sometimes our own expectations of life, they might not even bring us happiness. So yeah, I've had my greatest successes of life when I've least wanted it. That's kind of what I'm saying. I think the people that want it too much sometimes push it away. I think, what I ask myself and what I pray every day is, God, if you want it for me, I want it too. And if you don't want it for me, I don't want it. And that's just how I live now. But yeah, the reality is not everyone's going to hit their potential, man. It's been like that since day dot.
And I think that drives the mental noise, right? No one wants to forego their hero's story. There's so much awareness now around how someone can be successful. There's so much information. There's an obsession to want to curate the perfect path to that.
Yeah, man. You know what's actually sad is everyone wants to be a someone. But what is a someone? Like, what's a famous person? Like, I don't give a fuck if someone's famous. I don't give a fuck if I'm famous. I don't even look up to anyone famous. To be honest, I don't even look up to anyone on Instagram. I look up to my 2 younger brothers who have families. I just look up to dads who sacrificed their life and provided, stability for their family. I think if people started to actually look at role models in a realistic way and stop looking at some like false idols, everyone would be a lot happier. But yeah, like I said, man, our phones, movies, music, just a bunch of degenerates fooling the world, fooling men into what they think they should be. But really, the real role models that you should be looking at is just, a good dad with good morals, providing for his family, living a simple life. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm really moving away from the outrageous, famous shit. Just getting back to basics. That's what I reckon the success is. So I think if we remodeled as a society our version of what success looked like, everyone would be a lot happier. Because I reckon peak success, in my opinion, is having a wife, 2 healthy kids, eating organic food, and praying together, having a strong family unit, and then building strong communities, and those strong communities build strong countries. I think that's what it's all about. Just, living well. And I think if we actually started to see that as the pinnacle of success, all of us young men could find a very easy path to success.
So what do you think's distorting our perception of why that isn't successful, why that's not good enough? What agendas are being pushed?
Oh man, without going down my rabbit hole, I just reckon the world's just run by satanic individuals that are trying to distort God's plan for humankind. And that is that agenda is pushed through music, through movies, through Instagram, and we're at spiritual warfare. We're in a mental war. But I think when you turn off the noise, simplicity's right there. Happiness is right there. But yeah, industries are built off our suffering, man. Yeah.
So as a collective, you think members of society are paying the price they're the price tag of the success and the desires of these satanic individuals?
Man, if you look at the story of Satan in the Bible, what did Satan desire?
You tell me.
He wanted to be like God. He wanted to be godlike. He wanted the fame. I believe the beginning of destruction to any human is when they want fame, when they want to be bigger than other humans. That's when you suffer. And it was the beginning of the downfall. I just think we all want to be more than we are, but we don't need to be more than we are. Like, the human experience is enough. Like, it's a beautiful experience. And I actually think when you just stop wanting more, you start to realize how much you have. Life simplifies and you start to get really happy. And when you start to get really happy and you start to do things well, you start to make money.
It's paradoxical for the mind to comprehend, who's running on default and autopilot and sees all these people happy. Oh, if only I do this thing, then I'll have this feeling. And it's incredibly difficult to slow down and change those expectations that are getting programmed into us.
Yeah, man, you've got to slow down though. It's just like, it's like that saying, you know, you have 1,000 problems until you lose your health, and then you've only got one. Honestly, if you're healthy, you can eat some good food, you can walk, you can have good conversations, and you can show love. I just reckon you're winning. Like, what else do we need? It's but you know, the hard thing is, if you're not going to take responsibility and make it your responsibility to learn that and feel that on a bodily level, you're going to suffer. So all forms of suffering are self-induced. You don't want to take responsibility for your life and start getting grateful for what you have. I believe God takes away what you're not grateful for. So if you're not grateful for your partner, you'll lose that partner. If you're not grateful for what you have, you'll lose what you have. So I think it all begins with that appreciation of the small things. And when you start to feel like you're winning, even if you don't have much, you get yourself on a roll. Like, I find I do this silly thing where I start to go, all right, I woke up, I saw the sun, I've just had a herbal tea, I've had an organic smoothie, I just had a good chat with my wife, and I got to see my 2 dogs, I'm winning. And then I'll get an email about a program inquiry, and then I'll get paid $6,000 for a program, and then I'll go, fuck yeah, I got everything. And then someone will message me 15 minutes later and say, hey man, I'm interested in doing one of your programs. And because I'll be in a good mood, I'll have a lot of energy for that person. And because I've got a lot of energy for that person, I'll give them an amazing service. And because I've given them an amazing service, they've told a friend. And now a month later, I'm working with their friend. And that all began because I was really grateful that I just got to have a herbal tea and a smoothie and talk to my wife and dogs. And then it starts to snowball from there. So you've got to learn to create your own momentum in life. You have to. Like, if you don't learn to generate your own success and momentum, you're going to be screwed. And that's victim mentality, is thinking that someone else needs to come into your life and create momentum for you.
How do we lean into gratitude when there's this like army of thoughts and emotions trying to take us away from what we have available to us and trying to create a vision of the future? But then there's also, like I said, it's that tension of like, what happens if the striving towards this thing is creating a higher version of myself?
Yeah, how do you lean into gratitude? Pray for it, man. Pray for it. Ask God, say, I'm struggling right now. and I'm feeling extremely ungrateful. I'm feeling a spirit of disgratitude for my life. I'd like to connect to you on some level, and I would like to experience a deeper connection to myself and the things that you've given me. And it says in the scriptures, draw close to God and he will draw close to you. He's not going to come and meet you. He's the all. You have to go and meet it. And I believe when you make it your business to invite God into your life, he will penetrate your heart on some level, and you'll start to learn things about yourself that you wouldn't know if you didn't seek that connection or that relationship. So I reckon if you can't generate something on your own, you need to ask for help.
I was having this conversation the other day. Do you think it's necessary to label it God to receive the benefits of this process?
Yes. I don't believe in the airy-fairy universe. I believe the universe is a creation of God's mind. So you want a connection with something, at least give it the diligence to describe what it is. You're not just, this podcast is not you. This podcast is a creation of you. This universe is a creation of God. So I heavily avoid using the word universe and I use the word God because I believe that there is a God who created all things, and I believe that I am a byproduct of that all mind. So I believe when I connect to the all mind or the mind of God, I am now working in union with God. But I believe that everything is an offering or an invitation or a choice. And I believe that you need to consciously, actively, and intentionally seek out a relationship with God. And it's a choice. A lot of people say, I've spoken to God and he hasn't spoken back. And it's like, well, what language does God speak? I believe God talks to us through feelings, through people, through conversations. And if you look for how God's talking to you, you'll find that he's been talking to you all along. You just haven't been listening. So, yeah, whenever I work with people, the first thing I do is I ask them, well, I can only take you so far. I'm talking to you because I'm praying to God, but you don't need me. Why don't you just go straight to the source? So if I teach anyone anything, it's I try and give them a roadmap, or I try and give them a belief that there's something beyond themselves and beyond me, because who am I? I'm nothing. And all the information that I'm giving them is because I've asked for that information, and God's delivered that to me, through me. And that's all I am. We all are. We're just conduits. We're nothing. Yeah.
How would you balance this humbleness that is sort of tied in with the philosophies or teachings of God around your individual, like human identity, but also that's not being driven from a place of the fear of being seen, and you don't want to put yourself out into the world and express your truth because you're scared of the acceptance of other people?
You know what, bro? I've had this conversation so much because I work with a lot of people who have issues with self-worth. How do I explain this? Like, clearly, it's almost more egotistical to not put yourself out there. And what I mean by that is people who have a fear of putting themselves out there is because they think they're a big deal and they think everyone's going to care about what they're doing. But when you just put yourself out there, you have to detach from yourself. Like, I put myself out there because I realize I'm fucking nothing and no one's going to remember anything I say in a few years anyway. But then you got people at home with 500 followers being like, I don't want to post this, I look silly, or this might sound stupid. It's because they have a far bigger idea of themselves than they are in reality. But when you just let go of who you think you are and just put it out there, there's a far lot less ego attached to it. So in my mind, people with self-worth issues who are scared to put their voice out there, in a way, it's actually more egotistical than the ones who are just putting themselves out there.
Mm.
So, I had a client on the phone to me the other week, and she goes, I just can't stand girls like that with the big lips and the fake bums. They're just so egotistical. And I was like, what makes them egotistical? And she's like, oh, it's just all about their physical body. I was like, yeah, fair enough. There's also people who go to universities who constantly flex their university degree. They just identify through their education, not their body. Or there's people who identify with their religion, or there's people who identify with how good they are at their job. Like, we're all egotistical, all of us. But having a healthy relationship with it will serve us well. Like, I don't think I'm a piece of shit. I think I'm a good person. I think I'm smart. I think I'm kind. I think I'm really good at my job. But on the other side of that, I realize, man, there's dudes who are way better than me at my job. I'm not that smart. I haven't experienced shit, and I don't know anything. Two truths can coexist at the same time. I think you just got to have a healthy relationship with both things simultaneously existing.
I think that's our greatest struggle of the modern era, is to hold to existing thoughts or beliefs, or this paradox inside of us. We strive for the certainty.
Yeah, you just can't. You got to just let it go. It's like you look back on some of your podcasts and you'll be like, man, some of those are amazing. And you're also going to look back on some of them and go, man, some of these are garbage. They can both coexist at the same time. And I honestly believe if you're not looking back each year and kind of looking back at your work and being like, that's embarrassing, you're not moving forward.
Mm.
Like I was telling you before, to be honest, I look at Instagram and I look at my Instagram and I just laugh at myself. I'm like, why am I filming myself doing handstands and like doing all this? I'm like, it's fucking lame. It was like, that was last year, but I'm like, I don't hate on myself. It's whatever. You know what I mean?
So that bit there is the difficult piece. How do we evolve without judging ourselves?
Life keeps moving forward, man. Like, you're going to judge yourself. Just accept it. Like, whatever. Like, I put something out there and I go, was that good? Was it not good? Whatever.
Do you think the judgment within the judgment is more problematic than just...
Everyone's trying to resist everything. It's just like, just stop. Like, you're going to be judgmental. Like, I don't know, you see a photo of yourself and you go, oof, I've aged pretty hard there. You judge myself. Oh, who cares? Just do it anyway. Like, I judge myself all the time. And some level of judgment's good because you need to have some type of standard to hold yourself against.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's exactly what I was going to ask next, about what actually grounds us. How do we have a compass if everything should just be accepted? Like, it begs the question, like, what is our compass? What's our grounding, stabilizing force?
well, that's why I believe you need a faith. You need to have some type of moral code that goes beyond your own. And that's how you measure yourself. That's where you measure yourself up against. So, yeah, I don't believe anything goes. I believe we all need standards beyond what we feel is right. And that, for me, I have standards that I try and live by. But you also got to understand you're also going to be your biggest critic. Like, you're also going to judge yourself the harshest. So, feel it, look at it, have a laugh at it, and move on. That's what I do with myself. I judge myself pretty hard, but then I just kind of have a laugh at it and just carry on. What else are you going to do?
Yeah, I think we identify way too strongly with thoughts and feelings.
Yeah,
that come and
definitely.
go.
Yeah, I think that comes with age though. Like, when you're young, you feel very deeply. Like, and it's hard because as you get older, you kind of harden a bit. And that's also sad. But
What do
it's
you mean?
freeing.
Was that with your experience?
Yeah, like, you harden as you get older. Like, I witness myself, I'll see a dog in Bali, for example, and I love dogs. And when I see those starving dogs, it breaks my heart. And I'll go and buy them some food and I'll sit with them for an hour. But I realize, as hard as it is, I know that I'm going to forget about it in 6 months. So you start to become hard towards things. and you start to get less empathetic with people. Like, I talk to men who are bawling their eyes out because they've just been dumped by their girlfriend, and I feel nothing. It's because I understand through life's experience that they're going to be completely fine in 3 months. So I'm not going to attach to how they're feeling emotionally. I'll just witness them, and I'll tell them the thing that they need to hear, because I know that really this isn't going to mean anything in 3 months. Whereas in the past, when you're younger, you really attach your emotions to everything, and it sends you on a roller coaster, man. It's very destabilizing.
Well, that's the messaging that's getting pushed now in society, especially for men. It's so feelings oriented, and we're being dictated by how we feel.
Yeah, and that's why you got guys like Andrew Tate, and young men love him, because he just tells them, like, you know, fuck how you feel, man. Like, just get on with it. And I don't necessarily agree with everything Andrew Tate says, but I think he's provided solace to a lot of young men just through simplifying the message. Because young men, man, they're emotional beings, and they're often suffering their emotions. And like most good books will tell you, you're not suffering the event, you're suffering your reaction to the event. So most of the suffering is not what happens to us, but how we're reacting to what happens to us. And then as you get older and you learn to react better to what happens to you, you suffer less. And that's generally by removing your emotion.
So how do we accept an event, not suppress it, but then not also add on unnecessary suffering?
Well, you got to give yourself some time to fully, like I was telling you, I was so angry this week. You know, the Tyler bent me over 15 grand. And I was so angry. I wasn't going to get in my car and pretend everything was okay. I sat there and I was fuming. And I told him where to go. I said, man, it's fucking not on what you've just done to me. It's, you know, this is messed up. And don't deny it. You need to sit with it. But then you need to ask yourself, after a period of time, allow yourself to hit the peak of that emotion. Then you need to ask yourself, well, how beneficial is it right now for me to keep feeling this? And then it starts to get to the point where you're like bathing in it. And that's where it starts to get toxic. There's nothing wrong with feeling anything. I believe you need to feel the height of all emotions, because emotions are feedback. And I believe when you're angry, anger is the emotion of your boundaries being crossed. So I purely see anger now as someone's crossed a boundary, and anger helps you to reinstate that boundary. But once that boundary is reinstated, you don't need to keep feeling it. It's like when someone cuts you off in the car, and you say something, you've reinstated your boundary. Hey, you almost just risked my life. That's my boundary. You've pissed me off, but now you need to let go of it. It doesn't mean that someone can cut you off and you go, oh, I'm so angry, but I can't feel this right now. I need to suppress it. It's like, no, get angry, reinstate the boundary, but then let it go. But that's practiced, man. Like, you can't just tell a young guy, hey, man, just do this. You're going to have to practice it. You know what I mean? It's going to take time to develop the skills to learn how to handle yourself emotionally in the world. And that often comes with getting too emotional, doing something stupid, and then realizing the consequences of acting too emotionally. And I've done that plenty in the past. I used to get angry and punch things and then break a knuckle and not be able to use my hand for 6 weeks. And then you realize, all right, that was stupid. I don't need to act on everything that I feel. I can feel it without taking stupid action on what I feel. So that just comes with age, man. And I think half the problem is people think that they need to be a lot wiser than their years. And your reality is you're just not going to get there. You got to pass the time.
What's the cause of that?
I don't know, impatience, unrealistic expectations, and they stem from heaps of things. I'm not sure, but also just not having good role models around. I think having good people around you allows you to get to a state of maturity a lot quicker. So like yourself, you're 24, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with lots of young men who are 24, and I say you can't expect yourself to handle yourself as I would at 37 as you are at 24. Like, the reality is there's nothing you can do. There's no course you can do that will substitute the years lived. You can't beat time spent. So yeah, just patience, and just even having that understanding and that patience within yourself that, hey, I'm just young and I don't have it all together. Even surrendering to that reality will bring you a lot of peace.
So how do you balance that or how would you advise someone to balance the art of letting go and surrendering, but also realizing that we can empower ourselves, and it's so easy to stay stuck in the same patterns for unconsciously for the rest of your life?
Yeah. There's a great book, Letting Go, written by Dr. David Hawkins. He kind of maps it out scientifically. But suffering, the definition of suffering is a resistance to what is. So you need to learn to stop resisting what is. And often when you stop resisting what is, you move forward. So, yeah, man, it's a very difficult thing to learn to let go, but you need to learn to let go. And getting frustrated with where you're at is not going to help you move forward. Often you just need to sit down, take a breath, have a day off, realize you are where you are. The acceptance of being where you are is the very thing that will allow you to move on from where you are. It's just, like you said, it's all the resistance, but you have to understand you need to feel the resistance too. The resistance is okay. Life's not meant to be completely easy. It's all the struggles that you go through that create the person that you need to be to provide the offering that you have to the world. And without your unique struggles and suffering, you won't be able to show up in that unique way that only you can. So your unique experiences, your unique emotions, your struggles, everything that you've gone through allows you to create this perfect offering for the world that only you can. So it's a constant give and take. And I constantly battle with that. And I think all men do is wanting to be somewhere and realizing you're not there yet, surrendering to that reality and then taking a step forward. And you realize that when you step forward and back and forward and back, you eventually get to where you need to be. But it's always going to be in God's timing. And God's timing often feels as though it's too late, but it's always perfect timing.
What do you think the differences are between how men and women operate with regards to life? There's so much social media noise around masculinity, and I think there's a fundamental misperception or misunderstanding of the biological differences. So I'm interested in how you perceive us to be different with how we operate with regards to life.
This is the thing, man. You can have masculine women and feminine men. So I don't believe that there's one size fits all for men and one size fits all for women. And I believe there's so many different relationship dynamics do work. The relationship dynamic that I can speak on is only the relationship that I've found to work for me. And that is me being the dominant type who leads, who creates the direction for me and my wife's life, who tends to make the bigger decisions in regards to where we live, how we raise our children, and almost taking responsibility for just the direction that we're heading in. And then I feel like that doesn't mean that what I do is more important. It just means that I'm kind of taking that responsibility. And I feel like that works well for my wife and I, and we're both like extremely happy, and we fall in love more and more each year as time goes by. So like I said, there's so many different ways to do a relationship. I also have mates whose partners are the dominant type and their wife takes the direction to their life, and that's working well for them. So I believe there is a natural way that God has designed the relationship to flow. But in saying that, I see so many unconventional relationships where both people are happy. So I'm like, I kind of can't speak on it if it's like not my direct experience. But yeah, for me personally, I think men do well when they lead the way, because I don't believe that men truly feel good in who they are if they feel they are being led and not in control of their own life. Yeah.
Because there's so much messaging around men and their masculinity. It's being demonized, right? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's really hard, man. Like, I think there's so much information. People don't even know what masculinity is anymore. Like, people think masculinity is like eggs, steak, avocado,
That's my
high
version.
protein diet, and this and that. And it's like, nah, that's like a real small way to look at it. I just believe my version of masculinity is just being self-sacrificing. So I believe that a masculine man would put himself in the biggest part of the suffering, or you take on the biggest portion of suffering for the benefit of your family. That's what I believe masculinity is a firefighter, a policeman, a father who gets up in the morning and hates everything that he does, but knowing that it takes away the suffering from his family. That's masculinity to me. It's just self-sacrifice. And that comes in so many different forms. Like, there's probably some 45-year-old men out there with little train sets who wear girly pajamas and they display more masculinity than those big 25-year-old jack dudes covered in tattoos who eat steak and eggs. What defines and what makes that man masculine is the sacrifice that he's willing to make for those under him, not necessarily what it looks like on Instagram. So for me, masculinity is more archetypal. It's not really what it looks like. I know plenty of very masculine men who don't look the part. But I think in a visual world, we've created masculinity to be some type of visual idea. You know what I mean? It's like it's a look, and femininity's a look. Whereas true masculinity can only be displayed through action and presence. And when you're in the vicinity of a very masculine man, it might not look like it. You might not be able to capture it with a camera, but you can feel it. It's like an essence. And I believe masculine men are always very well respected by their families and their colleagues and the people around them. And it's through the way that they live their life, not what they say. But I think having a bunch of 25-year-olds on the internet telling people how to be masculine when they haven't even sacrificed one day of their life for the benefit of anyone else, it's just getting ridiculous now. And I think that's why so many people are off masculinity, is because the people that are talking the loudest have the least experience with it. So that's why I don't really go out there and tell people how to be masculine. Like, who am I? I don't even have kids yet, man. Who am I sacrificing for? No one. My two younger brothers, one of my brothers has 4 kids. He wakes up every morning at like 4:35 a.m. He goes to work every single day and gives his soul for his family. He's not out there on the internet telling men how to be masculine. It's just who he is. And then you got these dudes displaying their 10 eggs and 4 steaks saying how it is to be a man. And it's like, dude, you haven't done anything. Like, the way you eat doesn't define your masculinity. And then it's all gets twisted up with testosterone and how strong you are and all this weird shit. So the whole thing's just a shit show at the moment. That's why I kind of don't talk on it too much.
Do you think the visual system has just hijacked our perception of what life's really about, and social media being the driving force of it, the corruption of...
100%, man. It's so distorted. Like, and the thing with social media, it's such bullshit because there's no accountability. You can literally say whatever you want and not be held accountable for it. It's like you can just say something and turn your phone off. No one knows who you really are. It's like on a job site, for example, no one says who the dominant men are on the job site. You just go there and in half an hour you work out who it is. Do you know what I mean? You just feel it. And you don't need to go shouting what you are. People just know who you are. Because on social media, no one can feel who you are. You've got to say who you are and show who you are. And 99% of the time, it's a curated experience of who you are. And that's why I constantly battle. Do I want to do Instagram? Do I not? Because, you know, what I'm showing on there is really 1% of who I really am. And probably if I told those people who follow me what I really feel about a lot of things, I'd probably have no followers. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's a constant battle.
Do you think that would be true? Because I feel like authenticity magnetizes more people towards us, but it also repels people away from us too.
It does. Authenticity definitely draws people to you, but it'll definitely make your circle smaller, not bigger.
But does that really matter?
No, but in the scheme of social media, it does. Because often people with more followers make more money. So it's generally a bunch of people trying to please as many people as they can. And then you've got the other side of that coin, which is, let's just say the most ridiculous thing I can to get attention. So you're not really authentic. You're just an entertainer. And I feel like a lot of people have such strong views on Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't even take any action on those views.
Do you have any good examples of that?
Well, I believe there's a lot of people just going out and talking about how strongly they feel about the war in Palestine. It's like, if you feel that strongly about it, have you booked a ticket to Palestine? Of course not. But it's so much easier to show up and tell everyone how strongly you feel about something without actually doing anything about it, because you get to portray the idea, not the reality.
Because they want the pride from them virtue signaling.
That's what everyone does, man. Yeah. It's like, it's so easy to portray an idea of how strongly you feel about something without actually doing anything about it.
So we're in a recession of the embodiment.
Oh, big time, man. Yeah. That's why, like, a few people have actually messaged me and be like, why aren't you speaking on this? And why don't you speak about this? And I'm like, because I'm actually not going to do anything about it. So why am I going to talk about it? Like, someone messaged me about 6 months ago and they go, I really looked up to you. You seem like a spiritual person. Why aren't you posting anything about Palestine? I'm like, because I don't know anything about it. I don't know what to believe on the news. And the reality is, I'm not going to book a plane and go to Palestine and start helping people. So why am I going to talk about it? And then I listened to this amazing thing that this bloke said, and he goes, stop getting emotional about things that you're going to do nothing about. So if I'm not going to do anything about it, why am I going to get emotionally invested in it? And people get so emotionally invested in things that they're going to do nothing about. That's just stupid. So you got to really protect your energy in that way and ask yourself, am I going to get out there and get up here and speak on something I'm going to do nothing about? Because once you speak on something and you put it out there, I believe you better back it up. But that's the problem with social media. Someone can say something, you don't know if they're going to do anything about it or not. So, yeah, man, we're definitely living in a digression of embodiment.
Because there is no accountability, and it's so easy to point fingers and blame the other side. But we spoke about this before. It's like we're being forced onto one side or the other. It's like these ideological tribes forming on both sides of the internet, and our algorithms pushing one side, and most people pretty much in the middle, and it feels like they're lonely and they should be on the other side.
Yeah, like the algorithm just gives you more of what you're already feeling. And I feel like Instagram and TikTok, they're just mass tools of control. Like I was telling you before, I've been starting to get emotional about things that don't even bother my real life. Like, I'm starting to get emotional about things that if I turned off my phone, I wouldn't even know they existed. So that's when you know your peace is being hijacked. So sometimes it's beneficial to ask yourself, is what I'm feeling strongly about right now an actual issue in my life? Or have I been told that it's an issue in my life? Because all the division, all the hate between the left and the right, if everyone turned off their phone, they probably wouldn't even realize there's two sides. But it's just so easy to jump on the internet and have an argument with someone you don't know because you've got no skin in the game. It's not going to affect you in any way. And I think this is part of the problem, is you can say whatever you want and do whatever you want with no accountability.
How do you balance like that piece with also not being silent? Because I feel like it's a shouting match, right? It feels like social media is a shouting match. But if the people who majority in the middle hold these like more conservative Australian views are silent, and aren't we just going to end up being controlled by the people who are screaming the loudest?
Well, this is the thing. Everyone's screaming at the wrong people. We're all screaming at each other. It's the left versus the right, but it's really just the people versus the agenda, or the people versus the manipulators. So I think the enemy is not someone else. It's not someone else that you can see. It's probably someone that you can't see. So I think even just having that in the back of the mind and just realizing that if I energetically get my point across to this person on the opposite side of the fence, is that really going to help the cause? No. I think like Jesus did, and why Jesus had such an impact was because he led the way with love, and he showed through the way that he lived his life that was the truth. So I believe the best way to get your point across is through the way that you live your life. So if you've got a happy relationship, you're making money, you're getting involved with the community somehow, you're helping people, and people genuinely feel that you have their best interest at heart, your words are going to have some amount of weight. So top of everything should be the way that you live your life, not the way that you view life, the way that you live your life. That should be the loudest voice. But I think not many people are living that well enough for us to respect. And I think when you respect someone, you're willing to listen to what they have to say. But
they're the quietest people in the room.
They are the quietest people in the room. Now, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm really over like wasting my energy trying to prove someone that I'm right. I just think if you live your life well enough, everything falls into place, and everything falling into place is the proof in the pudding.
But what's this overarching falling into place? Is it just what do you think the purpose of life is then?
I think the purpose of life is to experience this physical reality, and the purpose of life is for you to live, and I think God experiences himself through you. So we're all small pieces of God, and our unique experience of life creates a God-like unique experience of himself. So the purpose of life, I believe the purpose of life is to procreate, to make families and make loving families. And like everything, man, everything is a process of evolution. So evolution, I believe, is things getting better and better. I think the ultimate thing to do as a human is to leave your kids less damaged than your parents left you. So I think as men and women, if we can try and understand that the ultimate thing we can do is provide life to another little being, but leave them as least damage as possible, that's evolution to me. That's just getting better as we go. But obviously we are going to damage our children. We all do, because none of us are perfect. But I believe that's the challenge, and that's my purpose. I feel like my purpose in life is to have a beautiful family and try and give them the best experience possible. And I find solace in that.
Do you think more of us are heading in that direction? Do you think there's a change in consciousness or an awakening of sorts?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think there's definitely a movement towards family living. Well, I think more people are talking about it. It's kind of on trend a little bit now. I think because it's on trend doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. But I think there's so much going on in the world that people are really craving to get back to that simplicity of just healthy living, creating solid families, and just doing your thing. I think, yeah, there's so much noise that now people are actually craving simplicity. Yeah, at least the men I work with now are expressing to me how they wish they could just experience being a kid again without all the nonsense. And I think we all feel like that. Like we'd love to just go back 20 years and just remember what it's like to not be so complicated as people. And I think when we develop the idea that just having a family and raising a well-rounded, healthy family is enough, I believe that goal is almost accomplishable by anyone. And I think that's a realistic view of happiness.
I feel like we almost set the bar so high just to prove that we're not good enough.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, quite often we do things to reaffirm the way that we feel about ourselves. So if you don't feel good enough about yourself, you will always create situations in your life to not feel good enough about yourself.
Because obviously the perception drives the thoughts and the feelings associated. So, yeah, it all starts in the perception, but what drives that initial signaling to my brain that has a perception?
Experience, like what you've seen, what you've felt, what you've listened to, everything is programming. Like I believe the first 7 years of what we experience in our life definitely create a solid foundation as to how we view the world. So I think what you're told as a child creates the way that you project your future. And that's why it's so important to gain control and mastery over your thoughts. Because sometimes if you haven't been programmed with the best thoughts, feelings, and experiences, you're going to need to understand that there's nothing wrong with your mind. You're just acting based on what you've experienced. So you're going to have to curate new experiences, new thoughts, feelings, and ways of being to create a whole different perception of how life should be. So it's pretty brutal, but it also puts the power back in our hands that at any moment we can curate different thoughts and project a completely different way that we see ourselves in the world. So we've got like an extreme amount of power within us to really do whatever we want and just create a new reality equal to the way that we perceive ourselves in the world.
Do we need the evidence to, because there's a lot of talk about how confidence is built is what people are talking about, right? We need the evidence to change our beliefs. Do you think that that's true?
Little bit of faith would help in that. Do you know what I mean? So you got to live with faith. It's if you want to have a scientific mind and get evidence of everything, you're going to be waiting around a long time. You know what I mean? Just believe, man. I think belief is huge in life. Not even belief, knowing.
But it's easy to have knowing when you have the proof, right? So
it is, and that's where faith comes into it. You're going to need to know something that hasn't transpired yet. You know what I mean? If you look at scriptures in the Bible, it's really funny, but there's two ways of looking at it. It's like, did Jesus heal people or did their faith heal them? And there's a scripture of a woman who had a flow of blood or, a period that almost didn't end. And in her mind, she said, if I could just touch Jesus, I will be healed. And then she touched Jesus and it said she was well, and she got on her knees and said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for making me well. And he said, daughter, it was your faith that made you well. So it's really, the Bible is teaching us what Joe Dispenza and modern scientists are talking about, which is when you have such an absolute belief in something actually being possible, it's the belief that makes it possible.
So the evidence is just the front for what's already available to us.
Yes. If it's a potential And there are never-ending potentials in the quantum field. If you can believe in a potential long enough, that potential will match you on some type of energetic blueprint. And when you're sure of something, you almost draw that from the field and collapse that experience into reality. And that's what makes us godlike, is our ability to think of something that hasn't happened and then collapse it into reality. That's why by nature we are creators. So the best creators see things before they happen and believe and know they are happening. And it's only a matter of time and space, because it's more dense, that thing will come into reality and collapse into their life.
I think that's because we're so trapped in the physical world. We've had our visual system hijacked. I'm reading Dawson Church's book around this, and the amount of testimonials around the quantum world, around how people are able to not only heal but manifest what they want into their lives through intentional thought.
100%. And time and space. It's really funny, but like, we think life happens from A to B or A to Z, but it's when you understand it's all happening simultaneously. It's only your perception that it's happening from here to here. When you can just understand that things can jump timelines. And
What does that mean? Like, my mind can't really comprehend it, but it sort of has this knowing that it's true.
it's very hard to comprehend, because everything we have ever experienced begins here and ends here. But that's because we're on one channel of this multi-channel crazy universe that we live in. But I think if you can understand that when you're watching Channel 9, you can understand that Channel 7 is simultaneously playing on someone else's TV, and there are thousands of different channels, and you can just tune into whichever one you want. You can understand that reality is all collapsing at the same time, but you're only seeing it on the one that you're tuned into. You can understand that time and space is purely an observation of how we're experiencing life. It doesn't mean that it is reality for every being out there. So what I like to think is, and it's super weird, but often I pray that my past is changed, because I believe my past and present are all happening at the same time. So I actually ask God to intervene in my timeline, and I say, if I have thought anything in the past that is having an impact on my future, I ask that you go back and annul that contract or those words spoken, so that they do not collapse into my future. Because I believe God can transcend past, present, and future. And I believe when we speak and when we feel, we create contracts, and those contracts create our reality. And sometimes I believe we say things and do things that set the law of cause and effect in motion. But I believe God is above cause and effect. So what I believe is that, yes, you reap what you sow, but I believe that a connection through God can actually annul that law of cause and effect.
How does that tie in with quantum entanglement? Is this what sort of you're alluding to?
Yeah, well, I believe that a relationship with God can get beyond time and space, or it can go beyond cause and effect or karma. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I believe that the all can annul karma. And that's what I believe Jesus came here to do. I believe the law of karma is level 1 of spirituality. But then I believe when you get beyond that, you can understand that, hey, I could, and the crazy thing is, I believe that Jesus is the representation of forgiveness, okay? And I believe that forgiveness is the representation of the law of neutralization. So what's crazy is I believe you can live a life of sin, and living a life of sin creates cause and effect. Living a life of sin is going to create suffering for the future. And what I believe Jesus did when he said, I didn't come to reinstate the law, but I came to abolish the law, what I actually think Jesus means is, I didn't come to reinstate karma or karmic law. I come to abolish karmic law. So I believe a relationship with God can dissolve you reaping what you've sowed. And that comes through the law of forgiveness. So I believe that when you consciously ask for forgiveness of your sins, you can be set free of them so you don't need to suffer what you've done.
So this would mean you're sort of an ultimate creator.
Under the power of Christ consciousness. Okay. So what that means is, in short, I have a bad thought and that thought leads me to bad action. And that bad action has set a karmic law in motion. And now I'm going to get what's coming. Maybe not this week, but in 2 weeks. But I believe through the law of forgiveness, through the law of neutralization, I can get on my knees and admit that I was wrong and ask God for forgiveness. And he will no longer allow that karmic law to follow through. And I believe it's a choice, and I believe you need to make that your decision to ask constantly for forgiveness, because we all fall short. Now, I believe I could also not ask for forgiveness. And I believe I could not ask God to intervene, and he won't intervene, because like I said earlier, everything's a choice. And that's why I believe having a relationship with God is so important, because I believe he can intervene on your life, intervene on the cause and effect of your life.
So what happens if something's driving an automatic thought? Do we need to seek forgiveness for something that was almost automatic?
Well, yeah, I always do. I always say to God, if there's an unconscious program that's running within me, can you please help that to become seen? Please help me to become aware. Everything's a choice. I believe we need to ask for everything. I don't believe God just enforces his presence on our life. I believe if God forced himself on our life, we wouldn't have free will. So the only way we have free will is if we actually ask for an invitation, or we invite God into our life. Then he hasn't pushed himself on us. Then we've invited him. So it's our choice. And everything's a choice. Everything's an offering. That's
what I was tossing up recently about God is it something that we find or sort of create, or does God find us? That was one of the...
I think God never leaves. I think God's there. I think God is a rock. The rock doesn't move. It always is. It always will be. It's just there. Like I said, you draw close to God and he will draw close to you. If he drew close to you, he would be enforcing his will on you. Therefore, he'd be taking away your free will. So I believe exercising our free will, it's up to us to go out and seek that. Otherwise, it would be pushed upon us. And that's where I believe the whole metaphor of Adam and Eve come in, is that since the beginning, we've had free will to do as we please. And when we do as we please, God hasn't enforced his will upon us. But if you invite God into your life, then you have to understand that he can put things in your path and his will can take place on your life because you've asked for it. But I don't believe it will if you don't ask for it.
I was talking yesterday with 360, actually. We were talking a lot about spiritual sort of bypassing, but people using spirituality and faith as an instrumental good. Yeah. Like using it as like part of the process to acquire more material possessions. And it's like, I think his 360 was talking about his journey and how he was, when he started developing that.
That's funny, yeah.
He was like, because he was using faith to serve his own ego.
Yeah, heaps of people do that. Like you see in churches, it's like I went to this church once and it was like people got to write down a prayer and it was like, pray I get into university, pray I get this car, pray I get this job, pray I get this thing. See, that's connected to their will. It's not connected to God's will. I think when you get connected in prayer, you ask God for what he wants for you, not what you want. And often what he wants for you is better than what you want for yourself. So, yeah, man, I try not to use a relationship with God to serve my own progress, but at the same time I do. But I also need to understand that what I think is success might not be God's version of success for me. So you need to hold things very loosely, if you know what I mean. So like, I want to have a big house and nice cars and lots of money. I'm going to hold that in this hand and I'm going to work towards that. But I'm also understanding that maybe that's not God's plan for me, and that's okay also. And I think when you do move with faith, you're happy wherever you land, because if you really believe that God has an influence on your life, wherever you get to, you feel as though that was meant to be. And feeling as though something was meant to be brings you a lot of peace. Because suffering is a resistance to what is.
Yeah.
So when you stop resisting what is, you stop suffering. And when you truly believe that God's having an influence on your life, you truly believe that you're always in the right place at the right time, that removes all suffering.
Is that just because it gives a reason? Like, is that, that's what I'm trying to extrapolate here, is the peace it brings just because it provides us the solace, there is a purpose to the present moment, and we haven't internalized the cause and effect to be something wrong with us. And therefore compensatory response is, let me change my material world, let me be in control.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is having a belief in that does remove the suffering. Just believing that enough. And it's like I said to you, the quality of your life, I think, should be measured equal to the way that you internally feel. So if you're getting all the good things in life, but you don't internally feel good at them, you're living an unsuccessful life.
Tony Robbins quote.
So if you're praying and you're connected to God and you're completely happy with where you are and you've surrendered to where you are, and that brings you a sense of peace and fulfillment, and the way that you internally experience yourself is peace and fulfillment, that is success. To me, that's how you should measure your success, is how you internally feel about yourself and how internally you feel about where you are in life.
That's where I think it's a good metric to have, because the metrics that we use as followers, net worth, and it's like this tension between the game of life, right? We want to experience life as like this playground, but not be trying to win it from an egotistical place. And like,
Sometimes you just need to get to that place to realize it's not it.
that's exactly what so many people, that's what was Jim Carrey's quote. He wants everyone to be rich and famous to realize it doesn't make them happy.
Yeah, like, to be honest, like I was telling you about at the start, man, I was concreting when I was 18 and I didn't stop till I was 29. And in my mind, I always thought, man, it's just not enough to just grow old and die and be a concreter. And then I got a modeling job and I was like flying around here, there and everywhere, making ridiculous money. And everyone was saying how cool I am and how amazing I looked and how good this was and buying me coffees. And I got there and I did all that, and it's all fluff, man. It's bullshit. It was great, a great experience. But it was kind of like, now I go back and do some days concreting and I'm like, I'm so happy I kind of experienced that in a way, just to realize it's absolutely nothing.
Because without that reference point, could you realize that? Because I think Chris Williamson talked about this, like we all have the pipe dream of, if I just had this bigger, if I had the success, if I had this money, if I had this ideal woman, then I'd be happy, right? That's why it's like almost sometimes necessary for people to reach the view, reach the pinnacle, the summit, to realize that, because without that reference point of that experience, then what are you comparing to?
Yeah, I fully get that, but it also shows emotional immaturity.
Okay.
To think that you need to get there to know. Like, at some point you've got to take people's word for it. Like, if you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of extremely successful people telling you that when you hit the pinnacle of so-called success, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy. How many people need to tell you that the stove's hot, you'll burn yourself?
But I'm the exception.
Yeah, but I'm the exception, exactly. And we all like to think we're the exception. But yeah, man, I think with age is just, I always say it, but age is just such a thing, and young people just want it all and they want to beat on you. As you get older, you just realize nothing really matters, man. It's all the simple shit that's the best, But yeah, don't seek fame. That's what I would say. Just, yeah. I think when you really follow what you love for long enough, you'll probably get some type of recognition anyway.
That's exactly what I sort of believe too.
Seeking recognition, like, you got to understand, life's very paradoxical. Have you noticed that people who really want to be liked, no one likes them?
Mm.
People who really want to pick up girls, like you see them when they go out, they're just desperate. It's almost like you repel the very thing that you want too much.
But do you think? I think that's because it's trying to teach us something.
Yeah,
We're getting presented by life exactly what we need in order to change our perception.
exactly. So, yeah, I think when you want something really bad, a very beneficial thing to do is to ask yourself, why do I really, really want this? And what underpins most of what we want comes from some type of lack in who we are. And often when you work on who you are, you remove that lack so you no longer want what you think you need. So like often people really think they need that social media account. It's like, why do you need that social media account? Well, I want to feel good enough. It's like, well, what happens if you work on feeling good enough without seeking that social media account? Then you'll no longer need that social media account because now you'll feel good enough. So now you won't have to put all of that energy into going to the very thing that's going to take away from what you actually need.
So cut out the middleman.
Cut out the middleman, yeah. So, but like you said, sometimes you just got to get there to find out. Yeah. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just think, like I said, I think if we really, I don't mean drop the standard or lower the bar because I don't think it's lowering the bar. I think when you realize the pinnacle of happiness is going to be having a nice, healthy, strong family. And I think that's almost achievable by anyone if you get your mind in the right place. And I believe that's going to be the ultimate peak in human happiness because that's the way God's designed us. I think when you start to set that as your purpose or your maximum potential of reality, everyone can find a deep level of happiness. And some people are going to do that and create safety in that family unit through doing what they love for a living, and some people aren't. But I always try and stress to the people that I'm working with, what you do to make money or put food on the table does not have to be the greatest expression of who you are. Because sometimes the greatest expression of who you are will not get you paid. And what I mean by that is my mum, for example, is the most selfless, self-sacrificing person I know. I don't believe there's any better mum on the planet. And I believe God built my mum to create an extremely healthy, wealthy, and connected family unit. And I believe that's her purpose. Is anyone going to give her $1 for being such an amazing mum? No. Does that mean she's not living in her purpose? Of course not. So we really need to wrap our heads around that what we do to put food on the table doesn't necessarily have to be the greatest expression of our artistic gifts.
So the currency of our purpose is fulfillment, not money.
Exactly. And man, shit needs to get done. Like roads need to get built, hospitals need to get built, things need to like keep moving. Like, do you think everyone's going to be a famous musician or a famous actor or a famous sportsman? It's like, no. Yes, they're great because they entertain us. But the reality is everyone has an equal part to play. No one's better than anyone. And the roll of the dice is some people really get to harness in and do what they love and get paid for it, and some people don't.
Well, that's why I find the people who take risks often find that material success because they just keep rolling the dice.
100%, man. You got to risk it for the biscuit. Like, you got to. Like, if you want to, yeah. Since I was 21, I've worked for myself. And I was telling my partner, I got mates who have 5 times the amount of money than me in the bank. They got investment properties, they got cars, they've got Bitcoin, they've got gold, they've got stocks. And they've always worked for someone else. And I go, man, why don't you open up that health space you've been talking about for 10 years? Oh, man, I just got to put in a couple more years. I just got to get this and that and this and that. And there's nothing holding them back from hitting their potential. It's just pure fear. But you just got to understand that some people's mindset, I don't know, it's just not built for taking risks. And I think, like I was saying before, you just can't substitute age and time spent. Like I've spent my whole life not knowing where my next dollar's coming from. Like I've been renovating my house now for eight weeks. I haven't been advertising anything on Instagram. I haven't been trying to get any work. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't been paid for 8 weeks. I don't know what the hell's going to happen in a month from now. Do I know where my next dollar's coming from? Not really, man. I just have faith. Everything works out. So I'm used to being in the unknown. I'm no better than anyone else. It's just that I'm so used to not knowing where the hell anything's coming from that I'm comfortable in this
You're
now.
comfortable.
Whereas some people are only comfortable when they know they're getting their $1,500 every week. But for me, I'm like, I'd kind of rather sacrifice that security and have the freedom because I still know that their $1,500 a week, mine is just as equally guaranteed, purely because of the past record that God always provides for my needs in the appropriate time.
And that's why I think it's dangerous to tie happiness to progression. It's so easy to do when you're stuck in the physical domain. Find myself doing this because you're attached. What happens when, you know, if something can make you happy, it can also make you sad.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's all part of it, man. Yeah, it's all part of it. I've learned like it is very hard. Like I attach, and you got to disconnect from this at some point. Like when I was modeling a lot, I'd get a modeling job and I'd be like, oh, that's a successful week and I'm a successful person and I made a few grand and this was amazing, and then not get one for 3 weeks. Does that make me an unsuccessful person? And then I'd get 3 the next week and I'd feel like a superstar, then nothing for 2 months. And it's a roller coaster. So you've got to learn to just ebb and flow. Like what you're feeling in a month or how your business is going on the month to month doesn't define your life. But the worst thing is to feel that your life is who you are in that moment that you're experiencing. But as I've gotten older, I've just learned to be like, yeah, it's cool. I haven't sold a program for a few weeks. That's it. You know, I'll get one when the right people need me. And then the next week I'll sell 3. But then I don't go feel like a superstar because I've sold 3 the next week. I just go, cool, yeah, I'll probably go through a couple quiet weeks soon. And I do. And then I'll go do another 3 or 4 and I'll go, yeah, that's good. I'm kind of moving forward, but it's all good. I'm not going to get too happy. I'm not going to get too sad. And it's just staying in that middle. So, yeah, it's good when you win. It's okay when you lose. I really try to look at that, you know. And my brother actually said this epic quote to me and he goes, nothing's as good as it seems and nothing's as bad as it seems. And that's really helped me to like just move forward, man. Like, yeah, cool, I made some money. And then you get whacked with 5 big bills and you're like, that money's gone. And then you make some more good money and you just learn to detach. And I think that, for me, that only came with age. So, yeah, it's pretty hard to speed up that process of experience.
I from my younger perspective, how I perceive it is young people being inspired to have a lot of experiences as well, because I think within those experiences, the ceiling or the bandwidth of wisdom is much higher.
Yeah. Traveling does that. Traveling and losing does that more than anything. I think what like people often say to me, what got you into the type of work that you're doing and what books did you read and what this and what that? I was like, not really. I almost killed someone when I was 19 in a car accident from driving stupid. And the guy that I hit broke his neck in like, I think 2 or 3 places, and he had to be in a halo, and I had to go to court and I almost went to jail, and I got out of it and I did a year of community service. And the guilt that I felt through that experience was like immense suffering. And to rid myself of that guilt, I constantly found myself in situations to feel guilty for. And then that led me down the religious path where then I was sexually guilty all the time. And then I had a failed relationship, and then I was left guilty for leaving the relationship. And then I realized that all the suffering that I went through was for the purpose to transcend guilt. And if I didn't go through all those horrible experiences as a young man, I wouldn't be able to relate with young men who are suffering so much now. So I don't resent anything bad that happens to me anymore. I always see it as, like I said, it's my unique experience that creates my unique offering to this unique world. So I think when you're young, trying to avoid the suffering is very counterproductive, because it's the suffering that is going to give you the experience that you need to make the big dollars.
It's because we want the paycheck now. It's
Paycheck, yeah. And I didn't crack into doing what I love till I was 35, 2 years ago. So yeah, man, you got to be patient. Yeah. And not everyone, like I said, not everyone's going to end up doing what they love, but you can't think that the suffering and the setbacks are the thing that's actually stopping you from getting what you want. They're probably the very thing propelling you towards what you want. And like, I don't really value any man's opinion that hasn't gone through some type of deep suffering. And all the best men I know have suffered probably the most. And if they haven't, life's going to teach them a big lesson. And what you'll find is people that have suffered a lot in life are often the most empathetic people. People who have really fucked up in life are very empathetic towards other people. And people who have fucked up a lot in life work well with people because they understand how quickly you can get into a bad situation. So I feel like with me, through how many times and the severity that I've stuffed up, I can very easily understand the headspace that someone's in when they've made a mistake. And that can allow me, because I can identify so clearly, because I've been there for so much of my life, it's very easy for me to tell when someone's in that bad headspace. And I really have the tools to help them get out of that space. And I wouldn't have had these tools, and I wouldn't have been able to have this gift, and I wouldn't have been able to offer what I do if I didn't stuff up so severely. So all the suffering creates the person that you need to be to share that unique offering. So, and there's nothing wrong with questioning that suffering and getting annoyed at the suffering and resisting the suffering. It's all part of it.
It's all part of the game.
Yeah.
Any concluding thoughts?
I just think, man, we all need to stop taking life so seriously. Like, I definitely think humor and just laughing laughing at your smallness. Like, just stop thinking that you're such a big deal. And when you stop thinking you're such a big deal and you stop thinking you're the center of the universe, you can really start to enjoy your experience.
Cosmic insignificance.
Yeah. We're all little specks of dust. And the paradox is we're everything and nothing at the same time, you know? And that's kind of nice to think of. It's good to feel like everything in moments, but then you can also find complete peace in your nothingness. Because when you start to feel too big, that's when the suffering begins. Thanks for having me anyway.
Yeah, Scott McIntosh, thanks for coming on the show.
No worries, thanks, bro.